Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Tech Tuesday. My name is Vanessa, and today we are going to be talking about how to create posters with BioRender. We have Nickie Pulsone from BioRender here, and she's going to be walking us through how to use BioRender, and we'll be posting some links in the chat of how folks at Weill Cornell can request a license if you don't have one already. Just as a quick reminder, I just wanted to let everyone know we are recording today's session. So when we're finished today, expect a follow-up email from me at the end of today with a link to that recording, as well as any resources that we mention. Feel free to share that with any colleagues who may have been unable to attend today. We also have everyone on mute just to prevent background noises while the presentation is going on. But if at any point you have a question during today's session, please post it in the chat, or you can raise your hand if you'd like to come off the microphone. I'm happy to do that as well. We'll be stopping at some point to make sure that we answer your questions. Without further ado, I am going to hand it off to Nickie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Vanessa, and welcome everyone. Welcome to our session of preparing posters and minutes. Thank you so much for joining today, right before the holiday, that you're going to take off some time and enjoy it with your family and friends. In this 30 minutes together, I'm excited to review three main design tips that'll help your science posters get noticed. And after we have a good understanding of those important design tips, I'll demonstrate how to easily apply them while utilizing the BioRender poster builder feature. Um, Now, I wanted to just I usually ask if you could post questions in the Q&A, but Vanessa has graciously offered to help with any questions, and I'll be pausing from time to time. So, if you wanted to just ensure that you're selecting everyone to share your message or your questions, they don't need to be specifically in the Q&A. Vanessa and was helping me keep an eye out for those questions. Sometimes they do get lost in the chat, but luckily I've got an excellent pair of eyes to help me out. So, if you are thinking who is the name behind the face, my name is Nickie Pulsone. I am your customer success manager. My background is actually in journalism and fashion business, so I'm very familiar with layouts, how to correctly edit and ensure that a viewer really grasps what they need to, or a reader really grasps what they need to from seeing a sort of visualized copy in front of them. I also work with Cornell University as well as Weill Cornell and other academic institutions similar to yourself. So really excited to help you all visually communicate your science in this session. I do see that there is a question in the chat, and Vanessa has answered it. So thank you very much, Vanessa, for helping me out here. If we are looking at today's agenda, first we're going to look at the poster builder. So we're going to do this in two distinct parts. The beginning is creating a logical story flow. Then we are going to maximize your space with text, also using color to create emphasis and cohesiveness. And then we will apply all of these tips in our poster builder and do a demo there. So, the this is a photo that was taken at the Society of Neuroscience conference quite a while back. And for those who have gone to scientific conferences before, you know how overwhelming it can be. There's a lot of walking, talking. It's very easy to lose yourself in the sea of information. So, what does this mean for you as a poster creator? Well, since there's so much noise that you're already competing against at these events, the design of your poster needs to be clean, easy to read so that it can stand out amongst all of that noise and that you can communicate your message effectively despite everything else that is going on. Even if you're not going to one of these big events and you're creating a poster for a smaller meeting, it's still important for you to reach your audience effectively and make an impact. So, one more time before we get into it, we're going to cover these three tips for your scientific posters. And we're going to begin with creating a logical story flow. Now, in terms of the flow of information, we recommend going from left to right and up and down, since this is just the direction that we read in most Western languages. This is generally standardized in posters, so we see this done well very often. The one section on the flow is likely to be disorganized is the results. So please keep that in mind and make sure that you're prioritizing the flow of information over how different visuals like graphs, heat maps, and representative images fit together. When thinking about your poster flow, remember that the white space around the section is not just for aesthetics, it's functional and that it helps your eye track around the poster design. I know it can seem like a waste of space. Trust me, to have these thick margins and paddings across your column and rows, but the space actually plays a huge role in allowing our eyes to track and follow the flow of information that you have. You want to be able to guide the audience through your information very easily. And this sort of visual breathing room minimizes any possibility of them getting lost in the poster itself, and it makes the content seem less overwhelming. So, unlike presentations, you're not going to be with your poster for the entire conference. Keep that in mind because people are going to need to be able to navigate your design without you being there to guide them through it. So, it's very important to be able to convey your message in that short amount of time or in that short amount of space, shall we say. And having a grid design really helps with this. People like what looks good, and having a clear and uncluttered message looks good. I want to pause if there are any questions on this poster flow or grid arrangements. Okay, if so, please feel free to pop that in the chat. So let's look at how to maximize your space with text. To really reinforce this grid design and consistent spacing in your poster, it's really important to pay attention to that text alignment. You can strategically use text to create a very organized and spacious look. And, you're probably thinking, what does that really mean to align posters with text? So here are two excellent examples. And when your text is neatly justified, like we see on the left side of this page, it avoids that need to use boxes around the sections because what the text is doing is creating those clean edges that is pleasing to the eyes. So you can already see the column of text, but there's no visible box, and the text is justified, creating those crisp, distinct columns. So to some degree, depending on your particular poster, it is not a mandatory rule. Sometimes having your left aligned text is better to avoid something like odd spacing if there are lines of text that are shorter than others. But the point here is to simply have a look at your poster as a whole and see what the text alignment can help accentuate the grid pattern and consistent spacing that we have been talking about. Now, another thing to avoid on your poster are words that occupy an entire line on their own. We call these widows and orphans. We want to avoid these because they create awkwardness and disrupt that consistent spacing that we're trying to create with the block of text. And on your poster, you don't have much room to include all that you want to include. So you want to maximize all of that real estate of your poster as much as possible. Having that one or two words that are taking up an entire line takes away a whole line's worth of space from something else. And it's not just how concise your poster is, it's also about how concise your poster looks. So if you cannot edit your text so that a single word is absorbed in the previous line paragraph, I'd actually recommend adding words to fill out that line and make the paragraph much more uniform. A big reason for this is because individual words will draw way more attention than text blocks. As you can see in this title example, you're likely to read that last word first and not the first word, up top versus the bottom. Absorbing that final word into the previous line makes it draw less attention. So we've gone through two main tips, and now we're on to the third, and we want to use color to create emphasis and cohesiveness. So let's ask ourselves here, what is the one thing you want your audience to walk away with after reading your poster? More often than not, it's going to be your results. So, regardless, whatever this takeaway here, have it clearly marked and let that be the main real estate on your poster or take up the main real estate on your poster. By looking at the examples that we have here right now, um, both have their results sections. There are slightly different colored backgrounds, same color but a little lighter. And it really helps to draw the eye immediately to the results so that you can actually emphasize that information and indicate that, hey, this is what you need to take away from my poster. It's important to mention that one way you can create sort of intentionality is by approaching your poster as a large illustration in its own right. So make sure that you're using consistent colors in your graphs, heat maps, and illustrations so that you can add that pop wherever you want it most. If there is one thing you remember, please remember this. It is hard to make something stand out if everything is standing out. And obviously, with the examples we have here, not everything is the same color, but it is very much muted on the same color scale. Another thing to keep in mind is, you know, pick those brand colors. So maybe matching your logo's color scheme is a great point. Those colors are typically bold. You cannot change them. And I'll show you how we can accomplish this in Poster Builder. So hopefully we've given you some, good tips and tricks on the design of your poster, and we will get into poster specific figure tips. Is there, are there any questions on anything that we had just uncovered?
I don't see any in the chat, although for anybody not following it, we did post a little while ago the link to request a license there, since there have been questions about how to request one.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Vanessa. Okay, so we're going to go into our demo. Now, I am going to pop on over to my BioRender here, as you can see. This is my faux company, REO Therapeutics. This is BioRender's faux company, so don't mind what you're able to see here. But keep in mind, we've talked about layout, text, and poster color. What we're going to do is go into our gallery. We're going to go to create and click on our poster builder. So since I have that BioRender account, I can see all templates that are available to everyone, but you will only see basic templates and custom templates that are available to Weill Cornell. So you can filter the type of templates you want available to you by looking at the layout. So do you want a landscape, portrait, or square? For this demonstration purpose, I'm just going to search up some classic orientations that we have, and I will open this up here. Now, this is a preview of the BioRender template in posters that you're going to be using. Some things that you can do before you even get into the canvas or where you are going to edit and create your poster is to maybe leverage or look at a specific color or color scheme before you get into your poster builder. For the demonstration purpose, I'm just going to use this berry purple. So we have a really good, strong theme to start off with, and I'm going to use this template. Now what we see here is my template is brought onto the screen. And when you sort of click out of your template, you are able to either play around with the layout or the content. Let's just say, I have this amazingly large results section, but I need some more text to my results section. So I'm just selecting one of the images. I'm selecting the bin icon, and then what I'm going to do, and you can see that everything is reconfiguring based on the space that we have here, is I'm going to go back. I just clicked outside of my canvas, and I'm going to grab the text box and drag it into BioRender. As I'm dragging it into the poster builder, you'll start to see this sort of blue highlight line. It gives me an indication as to where my text boxed is going to go. Now I want it under the results, and now we've got, text here. As I've entered some dummy text, we can see now that this sort of menu on the left side of the screen has changed based off of what is being highlighted. So, I can change the font. Oops, let me go back. I can change the size. Maybe I want this to be a little bit larger. The color, spacing, alignment, we have that justified. Vertical align, the list style, and decoration. So you are able to edit as you go, which is really, really important as well. Let's just say, looking at my poster builder, I actually want to include a new section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my text box, and I'm going to hover over maybe just the introductory section. And I want to make this an abstract instead. So really quickly, drag and drop, I pulled over the content, and that is perfect. Um, Now what we'll see is the option again to edit whatever I wanted to edit, but I want to add maybe an image. I've got my block caption here. One thing to note about your caption is that when you are including text or any sort of additional content, and sorry, I'm just going to do this really quickly, just copying and pasting. So you have this example. Now we can see that there's this sort of indicator that I've added too much text that will not be visible based on the sizing or the spacing that BioRender has here. Maybe I want to remove this, make this section a little bit larger. And now we can see that I have enough space for my text. So BioRender is just letting you know, hey, add some more content there, or add some more spacing there so you can include your content. So we added our abstract, we've added some text underneath the results, and maybe I want to add a figure to my abstract. So what I want to do is I am going to add an image. It's going to take me into my BioRender. I'm going to go to my poster files. I'm just going to use some brain profiles and tumor that I have here, but I will include that. And we can see that we have the option to sort of resize the image. Maybe I want it just focused on the tumor, or I want the tumor to be a little bit more larger. So we have that option available to us. And again, I've just organized this as my files. I've actually uploaded this scan in particular. So that was not something that I had created in BioRender, whereas this cross-section of the brain tumor was, just to give you an idea of the abilities that you're able to bring in, or the content that you can bring in. Now, looking at my poster, it's obviously very cohesive in that berry color content. Ironically enough, I just realized my images go really well with this color scheme too. But maybe as I'm working alongside my poster, I realize I don't want this color scheme. I want something that is more in the blue. So you can always edit as you go with BioRender, which is really, really impactful, especially if you want to change things as you go along, or maybe you realize that the dimensions have changed for the requirements of your poster. And instead of it being a 48 by 36, it's now 36 by 48. So I'm changing those dimensions, and we can see that I've re-edited my poster based on that size and having an idea of what things look like based on the new size requirements that I have. So really easy to do. I'm just changing the dimensions off the menu in the left-hand side here. Keep in mind when you are changing the dimensions, things will may need to be rejigged in order to really align with everything that is on the page. You also have the option of changing the margins if you would like, maybe making them a little larger. Your header is a little larger. Maybe you want that to be the focus and so forth. So I see a question from Ziki. Pardon me if I mispronunciated that. I'm sorry if I did. Can you upload your scans, bioluminescent images to BioRender and label your pictures there? You can upload in BioRender. It has to be a JPEG, I believe, PDF. We can go back here and just like test this out. So if I go to my uploads, we'll see here. It has to be an image that is supported by this size. So it's got to be maximum 25 megabytes, a PNG, JPEG, or an SVG. I hope that answers your question. The one thing to note is that, my poster is starting to look good. Maybe I want to add another image of my poster file. I'm just going to add a basic brain tumor. And I've actually realized I don't want this to be blue. I want this to be much more cohesive with my images that I have. What I can do is if we click on this image, or maybe we want our poster image here, we can go to edit, and BioRender will pop up the ability to edit this picture. I'm going to double click on this. And what I actually want to do is incorporate this specific blue. Now, I've highlighted that. I see that I have this blue, and I am going to actually make those edits. Now, going back to my color style, I can do the same thing. Maybe I want this blue. And now I'm going to realign or readjust my coloring based off of matching more closely with the image that I have. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this particular blue, but for demonstration purposes, it does make sense to make sure that you are much more aligned in the areas of your poster. Now I've got this blue here. The only thing that is a little tiresome is you'll have to select every section to make sure that, your entire poster is now representing that color spectrum. Maybe I want that to be the background as well, and then I will just limit the opaqueness. If we want to go back and maybe re-edit this image, what we will have to do is you can see here that I'm unable to undo, but what I can do if I wanted to, because I had this as an image initially that I uploaded, maybe I upload the new image and I've recreated my original intent with the colors that I had there. So the edits that you make within the poster builder will not affect your original. So that's really, really impactful. If I make any edits to this brain, it'll only be so or do so within the poster builder itself. You are always able to utilize things like specific hex codes, RGB codes. You can add transparencies. You obviously have many more colors here. And you have the ability to select based on the color scale. You can add a border color if you would like as well. Maybe I want my colors to be really highlighted. Maybe I don't, and so forth. Now, going back to the poster sizing or the resizing, what's really beneficial about BioRender Poster Builder is that, if you ever wanted to go back in time and undo any changes that you've made to your poster, you can simply go to File, Version History, and keep in mind this saves from time to time. So if I wanted to go back to maybe my first iteration of this berry, I can make a copy of this poster and go ahead and either view my recovered copy or take a look at it after I've completed this existing poster. Because BioRender is going to automatically save versions of your poster every minute to every few minutes, so you don't have to worry about, losing any work you've done or manually saving, version 1 to version 7 of that poster. Another key thing is based on this right-hand menu here, obviously you can zoom in or zoom out or add things like grid lines, which in BioRender Poster Builder, I wouldn't necessarily say this is something to heavily leverage. Um, but if you want to just ensure that your spacing is done well, it's a good little tip and trick. But the preview is really, really impactful because you get an idea of what your poster will look like before you have it sent off to be printed or before you have it submitted. And what you can also do is maybe have another eye or maybe have a colleague take a look at your poster by adding another set of eyes to edit or just offering some assistance there. So you can go to the comment section at the top of your screen here, and your colleague will select, an area of your poster and maybe uh, font should be smaller size. I'm going to tag my colleague. Okay. It may take a moment or so. Typically, when you tag a colleague, it will show up. Oh, I know why it's not showing up. I've got to share that with her. So I am going to share it with her first, right at the top of the screen. Sorry about that. So I'm going to send her an invite. Now we've got our comment section, and now we will see her name pops up automatically. A really beneficial sort of tip and trick or anything about BioRender is anytime you leave a comment or there's a commentary within any area of BioRender, it will only live within BioRender. So if I am exporting this, which I will be doing right now, we can see that this is my preview and my comments are living in BioRender in the poster builder. You'll see that you can print in these file types. And we recommend exporting at a 300 DPI because you don't want to lose any of the resolution when printing something large like this, but you do have the option to go lower if you need to. Again, not recommended, but I would take a look at that. Another thing is previewing in grayscale. This is really important as there are a lot of individuals that have color vision deficiencies. So you want to make sure that, yes, everything is cohesive, you're not using the same color, but that is really important because if someone is not able to see all colors or see in something that is closer to a grayscale, they also need to understand what is occurring in your image. And that's why having those slight changes in color really help. You can see here if someone is, has a color vision deficiency and is looking at the poster that we created, the results section is highlighted because of that color in the background. So just something to keep in mind. And when you export, BioRender is going to export it to your downloads. And just a little reminder to cite BioRender as well when you're creating your images. Um, One other thing to note is if I am in my poster builder and I have shared this with my colleague Alicia, you'll see that my initials are at the top of the screen. If she's on the poster at the same time that I am, her initials will be at the top of the screen, and we can go from there and work on something together. This concludes our demo portion of the poster builder, but I just want to pause because I'm seeing some questions and allow individuals to ask more questions. So, can you show us again where to find the saved history? Yes, of course. If you go to the top of your screen under File, you will see Version History and just select that. And again, BioRender automatically creates these version histories that you will just have the option to go through here. You're welcome. And then make a copy and go from there.
Nikki, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Our branding team has reached out in the past about if there's a possibility to potentially have Wow Cornell a template or a branded template as part of users' BioRender account. Currently, we're limited to PowerPoint or InDesign templates, which are not necessarily the best when it comes to printing or resolution, and InDesign is not the most user-friendly tool. Is that something that other institutions have available in their own accounts?
So if we wanted to go ahead and talk about branded templates specifically for Weill Cornell, we can connect with our design team and I can put those requests through. I'll connect with Sarah on that as well, just to ensure, things are in alignment, but I can absolutely start that process so that you're not just leveraging PowerPoint and InDesign, and that, once you get into BioRender, similarly to what I have here, if I wanted to create, my new poster with my own faux branded demo account, you'd have something similar there. So anything that is REO Therapeutics. Um, Let me see where we have it here. Now we're getting into other institutions, but you sort of get the idea is that it would be branded. You have the option to um, leverage those colors, and you would have your logo there as well.
Perfect. Okay, I can connect with you as well afterward, and with Sarah to see where we go from there because I think users would really appreciate it. We do get well, I get in my inbox comments about how, difficult InDesign is to use, especially when it comes to resizing and changing things, which I
Mhm.
completely understand. I think this could be a potentially great solution to deal with that.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited to help you through that process. So hopefully we can get that started soon.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that we have for Nikki? I'll give it a quick minute because we had some people log in a little later.
Yeah.
For those who did log in a little later, if you go through the chat, you will find a link to request BioRender. If you have any questions about the licensing as well on the Weill Cornell end, BioRender licenses are managed by our scientific software team. I will put in the chat how you can contact them directly as well, if you have questions about how you get a license at Weill Cornell, what it includes, and things like that. Oh, Mohammed, I see your question there. The same link would be used to request other licenses too. The link that I posted earlier about how to request a BioRender license, it does also include some other licenses to other scientific software. You could request them through the same form, so it's pretty convenient there if you're interested in other tools. Mohammed, if you are referring specifically to scientific software, I can post in the chat a link to all of the licenses that are offered that may not be included in the request form. If you're just talking about just software in general, there's a couple of forms you could use on my help desk. You know what? I'll put them in the follow-up email, and you can take a look at them. And if you have any further questions about where to go to get the license you want, I can point you in that direction. Hopefully that helps. Awesome. No problem. Any other questions that we can help out with before we wrap up for today? Just making sure I didn't skip any questions in the chat.
Oh, great idea. I don't want to think that I've done too good of a job where there are no questions.
It was a very good demo, I will say. It was very thorough. We really appreciate it. Um, and I think we did answer all the questions about BioRender and also about licensing that you all have. That being said, if something comes to mind after we finish today's session, please feel free to reach out. I will be sending a follow-up email later today. And if you suddenly have a question, please just reply back. And if I can't answer it, I will certainly get it to the person who can. So no issues there. If we don't have any more questions, I will wrap up today's session. Nickie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you teaching us more about BioRender and looking forward to having some conversations about how we might be able to do some branded templates in the future. And thank you all so much for joining us today and hope you have a happy holiday. We're going to be on break for a couple weeks, but we will see you in 2025 and hopefully you can join a few Tech Tuesday sessions then. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.